Arthur Balfour 1902–1905. Arthur Balfour, born in 1848 into a prominent political and aristocratic family, embarked on a distinguished political career that left an indelible mark on British history. A scion of the prestigious Balfour family, he inherited a legacy of political involvement, with his uncle serving as Prime Minister and his brother, Gerald, also making significant contributions to politics. Balfour's own journey into politics began in the late 19th century when he entered the House of Commons as a Conservative Member of Parliament, MP. His intelligence, eloquence, and strategic acumen quickly propelled him through the ranks, earning him key positions within the Conservative Party. Balfour's early roles included serving as Chief Secretary for Ireland, a position that exposed him to the intricacies of managing the complex relationships within the British Isles. By the turn of the century, Balfour had ascended to the pinnacle of British politics, becoming the leader of the Conservative Party in 1902. This marked the beginning of his premiership, a pivotal period during which he would navigate the challenges of domestic and foreign affairs, leaving an enduring legacy. The early 20th century marked a period of significant political, social, and economic transformation in Britain. As Arthur Balfour assumed the role of Prime Minister in 1902, the country was grappling with the aftermath of the Boer War, which had tested the imperialistic ambitions of the British Empire. The war's impact reverberated through the political landscape, influencing public opinion and shaping the priorities of the government. Internationally, Britain was engaged in complex diplomatic relations with other European powers, as the geopolitical chessboard underwent shifts and realignments. The emergence of the German Empire and the intensification of the Anglo-German naval arms race added layers of complexity to foreign policy considerations. Domestically, social and economic issues were at the forefront of public discourse. The nascent labor movement was gaining momentum, demanding better working conditions and political representation for the growing working class. Additionally, the Education Act of 1902, a landmark piece of legislation, was introduced during this period, reshaping the landscape of education in Britain. Arthur James Balfour's early life was steeped in privilege and political legacy. Born on July 25, 1848, at Whittinghame House in Scotland, he hailed from the esteemed Balfour family, a lineage deeply entrenched in both aristocracy and politics. The Balfours were a prominent Scottish clan with a rich history, and Arthur's upbringing was marked by exposure to the highest echelons of society. Growing up amidst the intellectual and political discussions of his family, Balfour was greatly influenced by his uncle, Robert Cecil, the 3rd Marquess of Salisbury, who served as Prime Minister. This familial exposure not only instilled in him a sense of duty but also provided him with a unique perspective on the inner workings of British politics. The Balfour household, characterized by a tradition of public service, played a crucial role in shaping young Arthur's worldview and aspirations. Balfour's educational journey laid the foundation for his intellectual prowess and political acumen. He attended Eton College, one of the most prestigious and influential schools in England, where he excelled academically. His academic prowess continued at Trinity College, Cambridge, where he studied moral sciences. Balfour's time at Cambridge not only honed his intellectual capabilities but also exposed him to the vibrant intellectual milieu of the late 19th century. After completing his education, Balfour entered the political arena, marking the beginning of a career that would span several decades. In 1874, he became a Member of Parliament, MP, for Hertford, representing the Conservative Party. His early foray into politics showcased his commitment to public service and his alignment with conservative principles. Balfour's rise through the political ranks was swift and impressive. His early parliamentary career saw him assume various roles, including positions within the War Office and the Treasury. His competence and strategic thinking did not go unnoticed, and he quickly garnered the respect of his peers within the Conservative Party. In 1887, Balfour was appointed as the Chief Secretary for Ireland, a position that exposed him to the complexities of Irish politics and the challenges of maintaining order within the country. This role proved to be a crucible for his leadership skills, and his adept handling of Irish affairs contributed to his growing reputation. Balfour's ascent continued, and by the late 19th century, he held prominent positions such as Secretary of State for Scotland and ultimately, the leader of the House of Commons. His exceptional oratory skills and diplomatic finesse further solidified his standing within the party. In 1902, following the resignation of Lord Salisbury, Balfour assumed the mantle of Prime Minister, marking the zenith of his political career. Arthur Balfour's premiership from 1902 to 1905 was a period of significant political and social change in Britain. Taking the reins from his uncle, Lord Salisbury, Balfour inherited a government facing a multitude of challenges. His tenure was marked by a blend of imperialistic ambitions, diplomatic complexities, and domestic issues that demanded astute leadership. As Prime Minister, Balfour faced the aftermath of the Boer War and the geopolitical shifts that characterized the turn of the century. The British Empire, though triumphant in the Boer War, grappled with the consequences of military engagement, including the impact on public opinion and the need for post-war reconstruction. Balfour's leadership during this period was crucial in navigating the complexities of international relations, especially in the context of the emerging German Empire and the naval arms race. The era was marked by heightened imperialistic fervor, and Balfour's government had to contend with the ongoing imperial responsibilities. The geopolitical landscape was evolving, with the rise of new powers, most notably Germany, leading to increased competition and tension among European nations. Balfour's government faced the challenge of maintaining British dominance while navigating the intricacies of international relations. The Boer War, which lasted from 1899 to 1902, had far-reaching consequences. Balfour's government had to address the aftermath, including the reconstruction of war-torn areas, the reintegration of Boer and British communities, and managing the repercussions on British public sentiment. The early 20th century saw the emergence of social movements and labor unrest. The working class, spurred by industrialization, demanded better working conditions, fair wages, and political representation. Balfour had to grapple with the challenge of balancing the interests of the emerging labor movement with those of the traditional aristocracy. One of the hallmark achievements of Balfour's government was the Education Act of 1902. This legislation restructured the education system in England and Wales, transferring control from local school boards to elected county councils. Balfour's government aimed to enhance educational standards and promote uniformity across the nation. Balfour, known for his measured and pragmatic approach, sought to maintain British imperial dominance while recognizing the changing dynamics of European power politics. His government engaged in diplomatic efforts to navigate the complexities of alliances and rivalries, particularly with Germany, to safeguard British interests. Balfour's government implemented policies to facilitate post-war reconstruction in the aftermath of the Boer War. Efforts were made to heal the divisions between Boer and British communities, and resources were allocated to rebuild the war-torn areas, showcasing Balfour's commitment to restoring stability. In response to growing social tensions, Balfour's government attempted to address the concerns of the working class through a combination of legislative measures and negotiations. While recognizing the need for social reform, Balfour aimed to strike a balance that preserved traditional structures while accommodating the evolving demands of a changing society. Balfour's government championed the Education Act of 1902 as a landmark reform in the education sector. By centralizing control and funding, the government aimed to create a more standardized and efficient educational system. This move reflected Balfour's commitment to addressing social issues through legislative means. Arthur Balfour's stance on imperialism during his tenure as Prime Minister from 1902 to 1905 was characterized by a pragmatic approach that aimed to maintain British imperial dominance while adapting to the changing dynamics of global politics. Balfour, a product of his time, inherited a strong imperialist tradition within the British political establishment. However, he approached imperialism with a nuanced understanding of its challenges and the need for diplomatic finesse. While Balfour acknowledged the strategic importance of the British Empire, he was not immune to the shifting global landscape. The rise of new powers, particularly Germany, posed challenges to British supremacy. Balfour recognized the necessity of engaging in diplomatic efforts to secure British interests without escalating tensions into open conflict. His approach balanced imperialistic ambitions with a keen awareness of the need for strategic alliances and diplomatic maneuvers in the face of emerging geopolitical challenges. During Balfour's leadership, the impact of British imperialism was palpable on both the domestic and international fronts. Domestically, The aftermath of the Boer War and the subsequent reconstruction efforts underscored the costs and complexities of imperial ventures. The war had strained resources, tested public sentiment, and prompted a re-evaluation of Britain's imperial commitments. Internationally, British imperialism shaped the global order, as the empire remained a significant player in the scramble for colonies and resources. Balfour's government grappled with maintaining control over existing colonies while responding to the imperialistic ambitions of rival nations, particularly Germany. The imperial legacy influenced foreign policy decisions and diplomatic strategies, shaping the alliances and rivalries that characterized the early 20th century geopolitical landscape. Balfour's government faced the challenge of managing the growing tensions with Germany, particularly in the context of the naval arms race. Recognizing the potential for conflict, Balfour engaged in diplomatic initiatives to de-escalate tensions. While the Entente Cordiale with France in 1904 and the Anglo-Russian Entente in 1907 were significant steps toward securing British interests, Balfour's administration maintained a delicate balance to avoid direct confrontation with Germany. Balfour played a pivotal role in the negotiation and establishment of the Entente Cordiale with France. This diplomatic agreement aimed to resolve long-standing colonial disputes between Britain and France and fostered a more cooperative relationship. The Entente Cordiale was a strategic move to counterbalance the rising power of Germany and solidify British influence in international affairs. Balfour's government also navigated diplomatic complexities in East Asia. The signing of the Anglo-Japanese alliance in 1902 was a key diplomatic achievement, aligning British and Japanese interests in countering potential threats from other powers, especially Germany and Russia. This alliance contributed to the broader balance of power in the region. The imperialistic ambitions of Balfour's government extended beyond Europe to the broader British Empire. Efforts were made to consolidate and strengthen control over colonies and territories, ensuring the maintenance of strategic interests. Balfour recognized the importance of a robust imperial presence in safeguarding British economic and geopolitical advantages. One of the key economic initiatives of Balfour's government was the debate over tariff reform. The issue centered around the question of whether to move towards a system of protective tariffs to shield British industries from foreign competition. The debate, known as the tariff reform versus free trade controversy, was a significant policy discussion during Balfour's premiership. Balfour, attempting to appease both protectionist and free trade factions within his party, struggled to formulate a cohesive stance. While primarily an education reform, the Education Act of 1902 had economic implications. By centralizing control over education and providing funding through local taxation, the legislation aimed to create a more efficient and standardized educational system. The economic impact lay in the potential long-term benefits of an educated workforce, aligning with broader economic development goals. Balfour's government faced issues related to currency and banking, including concerns about the gold standard and its impact on the British economy. While there were debates about whether to maintain or abandon the gold standard, Balfour's government ultimately chose to uphold it. The decision had implications for monetary policy and exchange rates during a period of global economic uncertainty. As the Prime Minister during the passage of the Education Act of 1902, Arthur Balfour played a crucial role in shaping the government's educational policy. While he was not the education minister directly responsible for the act, that role fell to A.J. Mundela. Balfour's influence and support were instrumental in guiding the legislation through Parliament. Balfour's government recognized the need for comprehensive reform in the education sector to address the challenges posed by a fragmented system, varying standards, and inadequate funding. The act reflected Balfour's commitment to creating a more efficient and organized educational structure that would serve the needs of a rapidly changing society. Balfour's role in shaping education policy was not only about addressing practical issues within the education system but also reflected a broader philosophical perspective. He understood the importance of education in fostering a skilled and knowledgeable citizenry, capable of contributing to the economic and social progress of the nation. By supporting the Education Act of 1902, Balfour sought to lay the foundation for a more cohesive and accessible educational system that would benefit individuals and the nation as a whole. Balfour's approach to addressing labor unrest focused on promoting industrial conciliation and avoiding confrontations. While not initiating radical labor reforms, his government sought to mediate between employers and workers to prevent widespread strikes. The idea was to maintain industrial harmony while addressing specific grievances through negotiation. Recognizing the urgent need for improved housing and sanitation, Balfour's government took steps towards town planning. The Housing and Town Planning Act of 1909, though implemented after Balfour's premiership, was influenced by the growing awareness of housing issues during his leadership. The act aimed to address the housing crisis by providing better living conditions and urban planning. Balfour's government grappled with the rising demands of the suffragette movement. While not explicitly supporting women's suffrage, Balfour did not vehemently oppose it either. The issue of women's rights became a growing concern during his leadership, setting the stage for subsequent developments in the women's suffrage movement. While not directly initiated by Balfour's government, the Trade Disputes Act of 1906, passed shortly after Balfour's tenure, reflected the government's approach to labor relations. The act clarified the legal status of labor unions and their right to strike, providing a legal framework for industrial disputes. The Education Act of 1902, discussed in a previous section, had social implications beyond its educational reforms. By addressing the structure and accessibility of education, the act aimed to break down barriers and provide opportunities for social mobility, particularly for the working class. While enacted after Balfour's premiership, the National Insurance Act of 1911 was influenced by the growing recognition of social issues during the early 20th century. The act introduced a system of health and unemployment insurance, marking a step towards the establishment of a welfare state. In conclusion, the period from 1902 to 1905, under Balfour's leadership, left a lasting imprint on British politics and society. Balfour's pragmatic conservatism, contributions to foreign policy, and involvement in key legislative initiatives contributed to the shaping of the United Kingdom's trajectory during a period of significant global and domestic change. The era serves as a critical chapter in British history, offering insights into the challenges and adaptations that marked the early 20th century. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.